Alright, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. So now the Shonen Jump is finally back from its holiday, Christmas, New Year break. We're going to get around to the couple of chapters that dropped today. So we got some Kaiju number 8, we got some Akane Banashi, and we got the next chapter of Spy Family to get around to. With read-throughs, I apologize. I did want to have at least the first little bit of Berserk out already. Unfortunately, between personal life stuff, work, and sad kind of kicking my ass, it just hasn't been ideal to find time or the energy to do that. But like I said before, these huddle events kind of tend to be the busiest for me. So yeah, hopefully just have a little patience. I'll have those videos out hopefully next weekend if I can. But like I said before, schedule's gonna be kind of a little bit wonky this next little while. So kind of just bear with me for that. Apart from that, we're going to get into a bunch of good Shonen Jump stuff this weekend. So if you haven't already, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I do appreciate everyone's support and likes for the last Spy Family video because I'm never really too sure how well these videos are going to do, especially with the series that is this popular Spy Family, especially when I kind of dive into or touch on controversial topics. So really do appreciate everyone's support for the last video. Without further ado, let's get into the current one with Spy Family Mission 110 by Tetsuya Endo, with translation by Casey Lowe and lettering by JB. And we pick up where we left off last time with Melinda and Lloyd, as Melinda goes, "I said that my husband is an alien." And Lloyd, just with a complete poker face, is like, I see. And he's like, "Is that just a metaphor for someone whose way of thinking she finds incomprehensible?" He's like, "What aspects of your husband's behavior led you to that conclusion?" She's like, "Well," and she kind of just shudders in fear. And she's like, "No, I really can't do this. If you were to find out about..." And Lloyd's like, "Please, Miss Desmond, relax. This is a private examination. There's no one here who can cause you any harm." And she stands up with a start and goes, "That's not true. You have no idea." And you see with a jolt as from outside as her secretary butler is like, "Madam?" And you have a, "Oh, don't worry about her." From outside as Fiona's playing what is it? Diversion, distraction. She goes, "Dr. Forge is a very sincere and talented clinician. I have no doubt that he'll help lead Miss Desmond in a positive direction." As the Fiona just gives her a cup of tea. He's like, "Yes, but..." It's like, "No, never mind. Maybe it's best to let professionals handle it. Honestly, all of us in her household staff wish we could do more to support her." And Fiona's like, "It sounds like you care for her a great deal. I can't speak to her specific condition, but generally patients need support, not just from their doctor, but from those around them. I'm a psychiatric nurse, so if you have any concerns you'd like to share, I'd be happy to listen. I'm sure there are matters that Miss Desmond would find painful to address or speak objectively about." And she's like, "Okay." And got back in the room with, "That's right, exhale slowly through your mouth just like that. Are you feeling more relaxed now?" He's like, "Miss Desmond, I promise you, as a doctor, I'll..." God, I do not like this. "As a doctor, I'll always be an ally to my patients, no matter their circumstances. If hypothetically you are being harmed in some way by your husband, then I urge you to leave that environment immediately. We can find a suitable place for you where you and your sons will be safe." And he's thinking to himself, and perhaps it could even lead to criminal charges being filed against him. If we could use those to remove him from power, it could spell an end to all his warmongering ambitions. Of course, it's never as simple as that. There's still plenty of National Unity Party members within the State Security Service and the Justice Department. Still, if we can plant even a single seed of scandal, it may one day bloom into a powerful weapon against him. It's like, so once more, I... And she's like, "He hasn't done a thing to me. That man hasn't done anything to me." And Lloyd's eyes narrows as he's like, could he be controlling her in such a way as to make her say that? Or even make her believe that? He's like, "Even if he hasn't harmed you physically, people can still be hurt by the words or demeanors of others." He's like, "Now I myself do not know whether he has abused you or not. That said, what is clear to me is that you are presently enduring a great deal of suffering, and it is your effort to fight off that suffering that has brought you here to the hospital today." And you see Belinda, she just kind of has like this nervous, like frightened expression on her face. And she kind of looks scared and closes her eyes and goes, "Yes, I suppose that's true. But coming here now, it's already too late." And he looks confused and he goes, "It's never too late to..." And she's like, "No, there's no point in fixing a facade. I can't even remember when all of this began. Was it shortly after my first child was born, or was it the second? I can't specifically recall, but it was some time ago. Right around then, he became a completely different man. He began pushing everyone around him away, and he barely spoke to anyone at all. And one day I realized that he hadn't simply changed, but that an extraterrestrial being had assumed his identity. Christ, bro. You see just like an alien puppeting its skin. And she's like, yeah, you probably think I just said something completely ridiculous. Of course you do. And Lloyd's like, could this be some manner of delusional misidentification syndrome? But I haven't seen any sign of the brain pathology associated with such conditions. Even the basic cognitive test she took earlier showed no signs of impaired mental functioning. And she's like, the real him is gone. I suspect the aliens took him away to some distant planet. You asked me earlier what my basis was for reaching that conclusion? Well, we rarely converse, but something becomes more clear every time we interact, and it scares me. Even my older son has been saying the same thing. That my husband, no, that alien. I knew it. He can read people's minds. I knew it. I will say that is a freaky ass picture of Donovan there. And like you see Lloyd being taken aback by this, going, in other words, he's telepathic. And that's why all your promises of patient confidentiality don't matter. Sooner or later, he will know that I've come here. And Lloyd's like, the belief that one's mind is being is a common what one's mind is being read is a common delusion, as if a patient feeling that they are in an impossible situation in which they are powerless to extricate themselves. And yet, she's like, I'm scared. I don't know what he is. I know that I have to protect my children, and yet I'm too scared of him. It takes all I have just to protect myself. Whether that man decides to engage with the kids or ignore them completely, I simply have to go along with it. And Lloyd's like, that must be very hard for you. But if I may ask, has your husband ordered you to do so? Does he tell you to do as he says? And she kind of just shakes her head. And he goes, Ms. Desmond, even a subtle cognitive bias can easily lead to a communication breakdown between two people. Don't you think it's possible that if you and your husband were to calmly discuss these concerns, it might help to alleviate your fears? Now, it may be easier for you to do so with the help of a neutral third party, in which case, suggesting that your husband also see a psychiatrist may be one way to do that. Although I can't say I have experience working with extraterrestrials, you could even invite him with you to one of our sessions if you like. And she just shudders and goes, you think that it's only if you're comfortable with it, of course. The health and well-being of you and your children is our top priority. I simply ask, Christ. And he imagines him with like just his arms spread like a little alien suit with, my earthling friend. You to consider that an honest dialogue with him may reveal that he's been a friendly alien all along. He's like a friendly alien? He's like, again, this is only a possibility to consider. We will pursue exploring his nature with great care. Another idea we should be open to is that he is not any sort of alien at all. We can't dismiss the possibilities from the future, or the depths of the earth, or as merely acquired superpowers. He's like, oh, I will research the various possibilities before our next session. It's like, next session? It's like, a problem of this nature takes time to resolve. It's like, Ms. Desmond, if you don't mind, I'd like you to write in this notebook whatever you can remember about the times you thought he was reading your mind and how that made you feel. For now, we'll get you a thorough medical examination and prescribe a few light medications. Once we can stabilize your physical symptoms, we'll go from there. She's like, so, you think that I'm sick? And he's like, as I said before, what I think is that you're suffering, and I intend to support your recovery with all that I'm capable of, both for your own sake and your family's. I hope to see you back for another session next week. In the meantime, if the medications don't agree with you or anything else troubles you, I'll be available. And as they're leaving, he goes, I wonder if I pushed a little too hard. And Fiona's like, there's no way Donovan would ever come here. And you have Donovan, who's been replaced by an alien. From what I heard from her chaperone, I don't get the sense that she's deliberately lying. And he goes, it's probably best to see our examination results before we dig too deeply. And see later that evening with, welcome home, Lloyd. Hope you had a good day at work. I'll make some tea. It's like, thank you, Yor. It's like, because of you, I'm now in direct contact with Melinda. And he's like, oh, Papa was doing mission stuff? He's like, but this idea of reading other people's minds, no way could anyone actually do that. And he's like, I can. It's like if an ability like that truly existed, it would bring down every intelligence agency in the world. Donovan Desmond. The more I learn about him, the less I understand. And Anya's like, the evil super boss has the same superpower that I do? For real? So I don't know, man. Like, I'll go talk about the chapter and my feelings on it. I don't know what to say about this. Like, I feel like Endo is waffling a lot in this chapter. Like, I feel like Endo doesn't really want to commit to one bit one way or the other. Like, I feel like he doesn't really want to commit to like, oh, Melinda is like actually mentally ill. Like, you needs like actual psychiatric help. To the comedy bits of like, ha ha ha, because Cold War references, ha ha ha, like, those gag magazines about like, oh, my husband was taken over by an alien. Because the first thing I thought when reading this chapter was in Men in Black in the movie, where you have Kay being like, oh, tabloid newspapers are the only ones doing the real reporting, and that's how they find out about the cockroach in the Edgar suit. Uh, oh, Christ, I forgot the fucking title of this video. Like they'll like find out the cockroach in the Edgar suit. It's like, oh, woman be like, oh, no one believes me. My husband was taken over by an alien. Like if right, if Endo had played it straight with those kinds of gags and references of the tabloid news, like the Men in Black, like the aliens are actually secretly among us, kind of thing. If you played like super seriously into that joke, I feel like a lot of the stuff with Melinda, if you hadn't had the prior like mental illness history kind of stuff like that, if you just played into that joke serious with her being like just a bored rich woman who's really into the occult and the supernatural, kind of like in Dandadan with the Okarun, who's like, I know aliens exist, blah, blah, blah. If you just played that super serious, I think a lot of these gags with like her being like, oh, he's been replaced because he says like, I feel like he's reading my mind, stuff like that. I feel like it'd be a lot funnier rather than kind of doing like this half-ass, like, oh, he's an alien with, Belinda actually feeling like a woman that's fearful for her life and kind of downplaying like, oh, he hasn't done anything to me that I can say, he hasn't been physically abusive, this and that. Because my fear with that, with Melinda kind of doing like the, oh, he hasn't ever laid a hand on me, he hasn't said like a mean word to me, he hasn't like physically laid his hands on me, things like that, is because if you are gonna like try and go with the angle of like the argument where like Donovan is part of like the fascist party, is trying to bring like right wing nationalism to the stage. He's trying to like bring that into the thing. And, Westall is standing in for the West, being like, oh, we're the freedom fighters. We're trying to like take them down, like liberation and freedom for all. My worry with this chapter is that they're trying to paint, is Endo's trying to go for the route of like, Donovan is actually a good guy that wants, that legitimately wants world peace and for everyone to get together, blah blah blah. He's just going about it in the wrong way, or he's kind of like trying to brainwash everyone, or he's trying to do this so that no one ever lied to anyone else, blah blah blah. And he's just a super awkward person. That's why he comes off looking like super controlling and standoffish and things like that. So I'm kind of worried we're kind of heading towards kind of like a redemption arc for Donovan with this, where it turned out at the end where Lloyd will like literally win him over with the power of friendship and love, being like, you just gotta believe in other people and like the goodness and humanity and things like that. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the angle we're going for with regards to that stuff specifically. So yeah, like I'm not like that's why I feel like a lot of the humor and stuff just I don't know what Endo's going for. Like it feels like even Endo doesn't know what he really wants to go for, like what tone he wants to set with the Melinda Donovan is an alien stuff. Apart from that, I think I've been saying for the longest time that my theory is that he's the mastermind behind Project Apple. And I think was it the old man Aufhausen or whatever his name was. I feel like I said before it might have been Melinda's parents, but maybe he actually is Donovan's father, grandfather, and that's where he kind of like got this interest from. But I feel like I've been saying this for the longest time that Project Apple was his brainchild, and he's been basically trying to give himself psychic powers, and like Anya is like probably the first legitimate test subject he had that actually has gotten these powers. Because this makes me wonder if that's how we're gonna where the series is kind of heading towards, is that Donovan will find out that Anya does actually have mind reading powers, and the end thing will like be her getting kidnapped by him for like experimentation, whatever, and then Lloyd and Yor, like everyone else, will have to like team together to go and like rescue her, break her out from wherever towards the series end. So we'll see what happens with that. But apart from that, again, we've also kind of got the problematic stuff with like someone that doesn't really know about like mental health stuff or like psychiatry or like medical issues doing a chapter around that where you see Lloyd kind of like playing into the delusions of Lama Linda, where he's like, I can't say I have any experience working with terrestrials, but you could invite one of our sessions and things like da 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 da, and kind of doing all that. So I don't know, like it just kind of gives me a weird feeling because it's like, all right, again, pretending to be a faux therapist, and I don't like the implications of everything surrounding that. But we'll see where it goes from here. So with all that said, I hope you all did enjoy this video. If you did, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Like I said, seeing my support for these videos does really mean a lot to me. I really appreciate it if you would like to show your support again. Until next time, this is Ash. Talk to you all later.